It's primitive, it's respectful, it's historically brewed. Today, we're drinking Anchor Steam. Hi guys, it's Jim here from Dr. Tankenstein with another episode of Beers of the British Isles. On today's episode, we're drinking Anchor Steam beer. Now, Anchor Steam beer is a legend. It's a 4.9% steam beer, and it's technically the only steam beer left that's allowed to be called a steam beer. Any other beers of this style have to be called California Commons because the Anchor Brewing Company trademarked the title steam beer. So steam beer, California Common, same beer, just not brewed by Anchor, I guess. Now, what is a steam beer? A steam beer is basically a lager that's fermented at a warmer temperature. I mean, it's not quite as simple as that, but the basics of it is that. It was a style that originated in California, I guess, California, Nevada, around the gold rush, where they didn't really have access to refrigeration. The reason it's called steam beer is because after they would make beer, to cool it down quickly, they would pump the hot wort up to the roof of the brewery where it was cold, like in, I guess, January in San Francisco is quite cold. So you would just see steam coming off the roofs of these buildings, and that's why it's called steam beer. This is not a Kolsch. A Kolsch is something that sounds similar but is very, very different. A Kolsch is a lager brewed with an ale yeast. A steam beer is definitely brewed with a lager yeast. Now, the recipe for this beer, Anchor Steam, the legend, is beautifully simple. It has pale ale malt, it has crystal malt, and it has proudly one hop northern brewer. Like I say, it's fermented with a lager yeast, so it's not an ale. It's definitely not an ale. It's its own discrete thing. I just love that this beer that was first brewed in 1896 is so beautifully simple and clearly still very popular in today's market. Now, I've had this beer before at varying levels of inebriation. It's never in my first 6 beers of the night, let's just say that. But I've had it before, so I'm looking forward to trying it now. Stone cold sober. Let's open it up. Okay, we're in the glass. We're nice and cold. We gotta treat this thing with respect, even though it wasn't chilled. Traditionally, I'm chilling it today. Okay, so let's take a look. It's really quite a nice color. It's more of an amber color than, like, say, a modern lager would be. So I guess if you're thinking modern lagers are kind of like a pale yellow color, this is very amber. This is almost orange. It's really, really deeply colored. Now, the head retention is pretty good. It's still clinging on in my rubbish glasses here. I suppose the aroma is a classic lager aroma. It's got that sort of earthy, spicy hop character that you would associate with any lager, really. But what I will say is there is a touch of yeast character behind it. I remember this is a beer, whether it be a lager or what, fermented with a lager yeast at a slightly higher temperature, or rather that isn't chilled. Let's say it that way around. So the yeast will be a little bit more active, a little bit more faster fermenting. They'll throw off a few more off flavors, and that's what you can detect here. Wonder if you can taste them. That's pretty good. It's very bitter, actually. This is way more bitter than I thought. I'll try to find the IBUs and put them up, but I don't have them currently. It's much more bitter than I thought, and it has almost a sharpness to the back end there. It isn't unpleasant. It kind of lightens everything a little bit, because the rest of the beer, despite this very simple, modest recipe, is really, really, really sweet and malty. That pale malt and crystal malt are really working hard. So yeah, I mean, bitterness aside, I'm undecided whether this is actually balanced or not, but it's got that classic sort of malt sweetness. Behind it's a touch of breadiness, but when you think about the malts that are in this, there's not really anything that you would associate with those kind of real heavy lager flavors. So there's real heavy malt flavors. So basically what you're tasting is you get that nice, sharp, crisp bitterness, followed by that sort of caramelly malt sweetness. It's pretty good. Is it balanced? I'm not sure yet. Anchor Brewery, Anchor Brewing Company. Absolutely legendary brewery. Beers come in these kind of cool 355ml bottles that you don't really see anymore. It's quite a well-known design for the bottle. So this brewery, in one form or another, was started in 1871. So for an American brewery, that's pretty old. In fact, I mean, for a British brewery, that's pretty old. So that's pretty cool. You know, they've been around for so long brewing. Like I say, I think this beer, Anchor Steam, I think this was first brewed in the 1890s, let's say that. So for them to have been brewing and working on the same product for so long is pretty cool. Now, to say this brewery's been through hard times would be an understatement. I've spoken about, European breweries, and if they lasted through the world wars, then that's pretty miraculous. But the amount of just personal tragedy that this brewery has seen. So, I mean, I won't go into it, but as I say, founded in 1871, it was bought out in sort of 1906, I think. The owner immediately died. His son that took over it was kind of ran over. Then somebody else took over. The 20s happened. There was, prohibition. They couldn't sell anything. In the 30s, hey, we're allowed to sell again. The brewery burnt down. And then it kind of just goes on and on and on like that until eventually you end up with the brewery that is kind of stood there today in San Francisco. So what am I trying to say? So this is an old brewery, and they're using old techniques as well. So, I mean, this steam beer that I've got in my glass now, it would be so easy for them to just make a lager, all right, make this exact same recipe, but let's chill the fermentation. Dead easy, we can do that, super easy. But they don't. They still use the shallow, open top fermenters that they've always done, and they just use the cold air coming in from outside to kind of gently cool the fermentation as it happens, which I think is amazing, because that then transforms this product that you're drinking from a simple glass of beer to actually something of an heirloom of someone's family or of brewing history. And I think that's cool. I think it's really cool that the Anchor Brewing Company are continuing with heavy traditions even though it would probably be easier for him not to do that. Let's wrap this up. Let's sum up Anchor Steam. So first off, it looks great. The brewery promised me a deep amber colour and a creamy head, and it definitely has that. The aroma, like I say, it's almost like if this wasn't in the capable hands of the Anchor Brewing Company. So if someone handed me a home-brewed lager, let's say, that smelled like this, I would be expecting bad things. Just because it does have that sort of that yeast character. I think what is that? It's not an estery character, or maybe it is. It's sort of hard to put your finger on, but you know that it's not just a lager in your glass once you smell it. The hops are there, you know, the spicy floralness that you would imagine from the proudly single hop Northern Brewer beer that this is. Like I say, it's quite bitter. It's more bitter than I thought it was going to be. But that it's not such a big deal because, like I say, that beautifully simple malt bill, the pale ale malt, the caramel, the crystal malt, just bring that really subtly sweet caramel maltiness to it. Like I say, it's such a simple recipe. There's no breadiness in there. There's no toast. There's no cracker. It's literally just upfront malt and hops. That's what you're tasting. And the hops, they are a little bit on the grassy side, but really, you don't really mind because that malt bill is really what you're looking for in this beer. So I'm going to rate this. And the brewery promised me, like I say, amber colour, a creamy head, and a distinctive flavour. So as this is a one-of-a-kind beer, essentially, the only steam beer in the world, I don't really have a lot to compare it to. So what I'm going to say is, if you were looking for, let's say, an interesting lager, say you were only going to drink one lager that evening and you were looking for something interesting, that's kind of where this would fall. And in that case, I'm going to give this a 6 because it is a distinctive flavour. You know, it doesn't taste like anything else. But I'm not sure if that's because this is better than everything else or if it's actually just because it's unique, if that makes sense. So the caramel maltiness is great, but really, if I'm looking for a beer like this, I like to see something a little bit, I'd see a little bit more depth in the beer. That's not to say that you shouldn't go out to Tesco or Morrison's or wherever Anchor Steam beer is sold and get yourself one. Because like I say, it is a piece of history, and how the hell do I know if you're going to enjoy it or not? So definitely head out and get one. It's a real decent beer, real solid, real good pedigree coming from Anchor. So definitely check it out. If you like this, like I say, this is a steam beer. Head down to your local bottle shop, ask them for a California Common, and I'm sure there'll be some dusting up in the corner over there. So until next time, guys. Cheers.